All right, we're back. We're back. Another episode. We are starting it a little bland. I'm not going to lie. There's only maybe two, maybe three fights we're kind of concerned about on this card, but we do, of course, have Walter May challenging Jim Carpenter for the welterweight title later on in the episode. So we got that in there. I think there's also we'll probably get through three or four fights. I have went back on SportsTube with some of my shows, just some, because at Low Level National, which of course is the next level up, we unlock a broadcaster that's unique to the UK, and I think it's based on advertising, so we can get off SportsTube and start using that. So that's why I'm kind of mixing it. I know I said I was going to focus more on making money so I could make my own advertiser, but if I get to Low Level National and I can get that advertiser, I can then start, once we hit Low Level National, open up our minor show, and start focusing on making the GFC shows really sort of favourable, like a real draw, big shows, and not 10 fights on the main card, and start doing prelims and stuff too. Just basically, the more time we go on, the more structured the promotion will come. It's a bit over the place right now, but we have a very exciting debut of Deming Se, Asian Chinese, 0 and 0, 18 years old. He's kind of similar to like Killian Walia or Terence Bushman, where he's got good defense and very, very good striking. Now, the thing that caught me off guard with this guy is not only is he getting paid a lot of money, like Gage did before we managed to renegotiate with him, I don't ever remember seeing him on any of my other saves, but he's definitely part of like the game world. He isn't, I've not randomly brought him in, but I don't ever remember seeing him or ever using him, but he's really good. Or maybe he'll flop, who knows? I guess we'll find out today. He's fighting Camden Vase, who's not great, but pretty much C alone carries this card. We might not actually make a lot of pop. I think we're on SportsTube though, but we'll see. Fujikawa is also back in action. Sigma's kind of messing me over right now because his last fight he lost, but he's not actually lost here in a while. I'm hope probably by April. No, maybe May, June time. I should have all the guys that Sigma are using right now snapped up on exclusives, but it's going to be a bit of an annoying time until then. But he's up against Phil Vedigre, who of course was going to fight. He was supposed to be fighting Tony McCall, probably around now, but Sigma literally booked him in to fight Tony and he lost, so it seemed a bit weird to put him in the fight after that. Even though the fight in Sigma doesn't really affect his momentum or his rankings with our promotion, it just seemed a bit weird. But if he wins this, then he might fight Tony after Tony's defence against most likely Fezzik, so he's most likely going to be fighting Fezzik. If he wins this, then Fezzik wins against Tony, he'll get the next shot. And then the rest of the card is pretty much a bunch of nobodies. Per Inventor's back, his 6th pro fight. Edson Elmidson makes his debut. Jiu-Jitsu black belt. Who else have we got that's any real? Lopez, 1-0. Kurt Staun's back in action, 1-1. He's against Vitali, who's 1-2. And then to start the card, we got a bunch of like 0 and 2 guys and stuff. A lot of guys that we need to cut so we can bring in fresh guys with good momentum or just 0 and 0 records. Okay, not bad. Our attendance is still looking very good because we're taking the boost from just rising in size, and right now our credibility and stability is very high. They're both 90 plus. So attendances are looking good, which is giving us a lot of money on the gate. Especially, it's really good on shows like this where we're paying people like Sa. He's going to make about 50k, but it'll only be for maybe 1 or 2 shows before we can probably renegotiate with him. And it is an employment money will go down like Gage did. We might have to wait until he loses 1 or 2 fights. But he won today in 22 seconds in his debut. Very convincing win. Phil Vedigre, who of course is unbeaten here in GFC. It seems like that loss, his first ever career loss to Tony McCall at Sigma, has done some work on him because he's lost here. TKO first round finish. Fujikawa. Also, I didn't know, but he of course won. And he has a challenge already out with Fezzik, who's the champ, but Fujikawa is definitely not in a position to challenge right now. Probably at least 1 or 2 more wins. He's the 6th best heavyweight in the world, but nowhere near that in our promotion, which is kind of funny that he's regarded lower in our heavyweight rankings than the actual world rankings. But Kurt Staunch also won. Back-to-back wins, keep the momentum going. Lopez stays unbeaten. He beat Defilise now will get cut because he's lost too many fights. Same with Wang, he's lost too many fights. I believe Dixon too, and Igawa. I can't really remember exactly, guys. To be honest, we won't click through them all to see. De Brita is Dixon. Yeah, these are all guys we won't. Like, yeah, they won't get much screen time anyway. They suck. They won't be able to even break the top 15 of the ranks. But good to see Per Inventor win. He's a bit of a dog. We've got a few guys like this who just win, lose, can't get any real momentum. Crazy fights too. But it's good to see him win. It's crazy to think what his record would be at like 30 years old. Like, it's interesting. I can't wait till we get that far. But overall, pretty good show. Edson Emilson also gets a debut win. It was a pretty basic show in terms, but we take a lot of pop, which with SportsTube is good. We'll try and get to. We'll definitely hit national this year. It just depends how quick. It really all just depends on me with the broadcaster. But see, I can main event. How do you say Deming? Sai? See? I don't know. Maybe I'll Google translate his name. I don't know. Okay. Not bad. Bud can take submission. And fight can go to Sakta, who also, similar to Kurt Stonge, is getting some momentum on his side. We take 123k, with of course C, the main eventer, he takes 48k, which probably already instantly shoots him up into the top 10 most earned money out of all fighters across the world, and it's only his debut. Just shows how good he is. And if he gets into a team early on in his career before he loses, like his first fight, because usually it all goes with momentum and popularity, he could turn out a monster, an absolute machine of a man, and he'll have such a long career too, like 12 plus years of fighting, which is it's guys like that I love. It's exciting. Okay, here we go. We had Rob Baines trying to successfully defend his belt. It wasn't to be. And now we have Walter May, who arguably should have been in Jim Carpenter's spot to fight for the first welterweight belt, and he wasn't. So this is almost a bit of vengeance for him against Jim. I don't really know how this one will go. I'm not really too familiar with welterweights, if I'm being honest, out of all the divisions. So part of me feels very surprised that it's these sort of two guys fighting for the welterweight title. But at the same time, I'm kind of happy because it can be quite unpredictable. Jim is better on paper, probably the favourite, and he's going to obviously be the favourite to be the first ever person to successfully defend their belt. But we'll see how it goes. We got a few decent people on this card. Joseph Minkowski at light heavyweight makes his debut. National caliber jiu-jitsu guy. He's pretty solid. He's a pretty hard guy to beat with a very, very good chin and conditioning eye. Remember, he had a lot of wins on my last save, so I'm expecting more of the same from him. We also got Aaron Brinkley, who got a great rated debut. He's back in action. We got Zacharias Gomez looking to stay unbeaten and pleb his way up the rankings. Joseph's also got Leon Banks to go through, which it'll be an interesting one. Leon's kind of similar to the likes of Frank Analysis and Per Inventor. They've got a bit of a crazy record. Killian Walia won his debut. Very good defense as well as his stand-up, national caliber karate. But he's got Otto Cascudo to go through, who's 2-1, pretty solid guy, with the biggest head in the whole wide world. Hopefully Walia can get the job done. It'd be a good win for him. Adelman and Miguel Florio, which will be an interesting one. Miguel's pretty much one more fight away from getting cut, if I'm being honest. But we'll see. And then we also have Lucas debuting as well. Probably the most jacked welterweight in the world. And speaking of the welterweight belt that's going on, Elgar could be someone that could soar up the rankings too and be a real top 5 welterweight contender right now with the talent we have in the welterweight class. And we also have Bam Bang, someone I really like in middleweight. Really good fighter too. So these two debuts is actually two that we're quite excited about for the first time in a while, to be honest. But I think I was going to run through the card, but I think in terms of maybe being able to squeeze one more show in or whatever, or just to kind of get through the save a little quicker at this stage to get to national because we'll get a bit more structure in our episodes when we hit national. So I think we'll actually just skip to the title fight and then run over the card at the end. Right, here we go. It's the Battle of Britain, England versus Scotland. Both guys 5-0. Jim Carpenter's fighting out of the Belfast Academy. He's also the older guy, much taller than Walter May. And he's also, when you look at their records, even though they're both 5-0, Walter's kind of been booked. He's kind of had his hand held a little bit on his journey here. Joe Hinchcliffe, which was his last fight, is probably his most notable. But at this point in Joe Hinchcliffe's career too, it's not as prestigious as it could be. Whereas Jim, on the other hand, he beat Sapatov. To still this day, Sapatov has not lost since he lost to Jim Carpenter. He beat Dan Halverson, who also, as much as he is older, still a hard guy to beat. And of course, he beat Ricardo Fernandez, handing him, I think Fernandez, at the time was 4-0, 5-0, just like Jim was. So I have to put it, I think it's going to be very hard for Walter to win. He does deserve this though, to be honest. He deserves to be in this position and be fighting. He's the best welterweight in the world on rankings right now, which is crazy to assume that he's better. He's a better welterweight ranked than the actual champ. So Jim's got some stuff to prove here. And I think he's going to be the first ever fighter to defend his title successfully. Wow, well, it only took 1 minute and 49 seconds for Jim to make his first successful defence. On paper, this kind of looks like a mismatch. It's kind of really weird when you think how tall Jim Carpenter is. I'm trying to think if it's a case of Walter May's too small for the division, or if it's a case that Jim Carpenter's too big. But I feel like it'd be Jim Carpenter, to be honest, because the welterweights, yeah, they fight, well, maybe not, they fight around 170 pounds. So it's a weird one. It is a weird one. It's a bit of a weird thing to imagine in your head, them both being in the cage fighting each other, but Jim gets the win nonetheless. And we take 59%. Okay, high enough to make pop. And it was on Eurosports cable today. We're pretty much doing show for show. 1.8k in attendance, which is really good. And we also, Joseph Minkowski won his debut. Arab Brinkley won again. Walia managed to beat Otto, which is a good win for him. Miguel Florio pretty much saved his job by winning. Moore Switzer lost by Richard Smith, so he gets cut. And Bam Bang and Lucas both won their debuts very convincingly. But the big surprise was Cohen Eddings, who we actually tried to feed him to Pereira on his last fight. And Pereira at the time was unbeaten, but he managed to win by split decision. And he's only gone and just beat Gomez, who I honestly was sort of pushing to just like pretty much kill the whole division until he got in the top 5, but he's lost. First loss of his career. I'm very surprised because he was against a fellow jiu-jitsu fighter. But his chin's, he got smashed basically. Eddings hit him with the most perfect right hand, and he went to sleep. He's still sleeping. Let's put it that way. So only 0.5 because of Eurosports cable. Eddings can take fight and KO because he was a big underdog too on that fight. Submission can go to the debuting Lucas rather than Joseph Minkowski, to give him that extra sweet $50. And apart from Zacharias, of course, losing, we take a lot of money, 381k. So overall, pretty good title fight for money taken. And we need about 4 million, and then I'll go for a big UK-based advertising company. Well, another drug test failure. It seems like we're getting these every episode at this point. This one's someone that's not decorated yet in our roster, so I really shouldn't be like annoyed by it, but I kind of am. I'm not going to lie. He obviously won his debut, but he would have been a real good addition to the welterweight. I think he wouldn't have been champion probably, but he was a very good fighter that we were adding to it, and the welterweight's definitely the weakest in terms of quality fighters, to be honest. So it's a bit annoying, but he's out, I guess, for a year. We'll keep him. It also doesn't help that he's 23, so he's not exactly starting the game at 18, years old. But it is what it is. We won't come. We'll keep him here because we can use him. Even when he's back, he'll still be pretty good by that point when more guys have entered the game world. Okay, here we go. Last show of the episode, and it also marks our first ever nuclear fight, which of course, at this level, would be the main event. And it's Wen Yam Chim against Martin Staskuskus. Okay, I really don't. I'm going to hold on while we're waiting.
Stashkauskas. Stashkauskas. Stashkauskas.
Stashkauskas. What? Hello?
Stashkauskas.
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 Nah. Let's just stick with Martin. But yeah, so Martin, he's up against Wen Yam, who of course called him out after Wen Yam Chim won his debut with the company, which was pretty bold. But then ever since then, he lost to Matthew Dean and Malfi Robbie, which honestly is not. It's like probably two of, if not the best two guys in middleweight. So it didn't look that bad, and then he won his last fight, and it was perfect timing because as he won his last fight, Martin lost his. It was his first loss of his career against Kuroki, which I was expecting him to win and then go on and fight for the middleweight title. So it's a bit unlucky that he was kind of one fight away and lost. But the stars now aligned, and it means these two guys can meet for the first nuclear fight. Then we got Marisuva after a back-to-back fight with Knoxherd. He won his last fight, still unbeaten, and he's up against Bill Cumming, who is on a 2-fight win streak. Then Lassie Plessu, similar situation to Marisuva, where he also drew his debut fight, but on his rematch, which was a fantastic graded bout, he lost. So now he's finally sort of branching away, and he's fighting Matthew the Monster Bale, who's on a 2-fight losing streak after winning his debut, which is not really great. So he's going to try and get back on momentum and get that name value back up. Then we have a bit of an interesting one. We got Thierry, right, who beat Elgar on his last fight, which we were expecting Elgar to win, and then he was literally that fight. Elgar wins, he goes and fights for the light heavyweight championship, but he lost. He lost it. And now Yamada is literally in the exact same situation. If Yamada wins this fight, he'll fight for the light heavyweight title, but he's got the same guy to go through that Elgar couldn't. But I don't really see any surprises against Yamada, but you never know. Thierry's done it once against Elgar, and Elgar was unbeaten at the time, and so is Yamada, so it could happen again. And then the last fight of the card that we care about is Putter, heavyweight Canadian fighter, national caliber wrestler. One of the very many, which is very weird. I mentioned it a lot, especially on the last save. There's so many fighters early game from Canada. Not poor, he's not one, but he's very good, which there's a lot like that, but they all have amazing name value. They're all national straight out the bat and also young. It's weird, and it's just Canada, I've realised. Well, obviously there's more, but there's so many from Canada. But the guys like Putter, who he's very fit and he's got very good chin and his wrestling's very good, but they never seem to really amass too much, they're very inconsistent. And there's a lot of them, there's probably at least 5 or 6. But we'll see. We're hoping he wins his debut and pushes up a little bit in heavyweight. And then the last 5 fights of the card are basically just guys who scuff records, guys who won't even get into the top 10, people that's not really worthy of us mentioning. If we were having much more structured cards, these kind of fights would be on the prelims, so we're not even really going to focus on them. Well, main event, no real surprises. We were broadcasting on SportsTube as well. Take that, pop. Got to get low level national now. And focus more on that for the advertising broadcaster rather than enough money right now to make one, to be honest. 66 commercial, pretty much carried by the main event into mid-level national. It was a 50-second absolute whitewash, which is expected. He was the huge favourite, but if Wen Yam Chim's going to call him out and then they get matched together, it's not really realistic in the sense of the betting lines, but it's realistic in the sense Wen Yam Chim had the balls to call out Martin specifically, so it's only fair if the rankings allow it that they get matched up. And right now we're not really strict on the rankings until we hit low level national on who fights who. So it went well. Martin bounced back after losing, which is nice. Get some momentum. Marisuva also wins to stay unbeaten. And we also had Matthew Bale go back to winning ways. He actually won by Achilles lock, which I've never seen before ever. So that was pretty cool. 4 good fights in a row too, and a great for the fights that we cared about. Yamada won, of course. Part of me was kind of hoping he would lose just more to boost Thierry's storyline, which would have been amazing if he managed to beat Yamada and Elgar back to back. That would have been crazy. But it wasn't to be. Putter also picked up a debut win. Ratin also won, which was a surprise because he was a huge underdog against Arslanian. And then the likes of Lee and Aramura, who lost at the start of the show, those guys are getting cut because of their loss. And we also have contender for worst fight of the year with a very poor start to the show. I believe we also had, was it Marisuva? He called out Roberto Aldes, who's still unbeaten, which was a pretty solid shout out. But as for the other challenges, I believe it was someone from the scrap pack at the bottom of the show. No one of real that we care about made any good call outs to really mention. But 1.5% popularity with a 1.7k in attendance, so we'll take quite a lot at the gate. As for fights, we'll give Matthew Bell's submission because I've never seen Achilles lock, so that was something. And the good rated fight of, in fact, no, Putter's taking fight of the night. It went all the way to decision, but it's the only great rated fight on the card. And Yamada with his knockout 54-second punch can take KO. We should take a nice chunk of money here because we don't really have anyone. I think Martin's probably going to take the most. I think he'll take maybe about 7k or something. Oh no, 13. Why is it 13? Maybe we renegotiated with Martin? I'm not quite sure. Matthew Bell takes 5, Marusova takes 5. But we're taking a lot more at the gate now. So this is actually a solid amount of money considering we're on SportsTube, but it just shows how far our gate receipt's coming along, which is really nice. But as for this episode, we are done. In next episode, we will have another title fight, I believe, on the card. And then the next show after that, it'll be round about GFC 50, which because it's the 50th show, I'm trying hard to space out our shows right now so that I have enough fighters and titles ready for GFC 50 because I want to have a bit of a 2 or 3 title show. But I guess you'll have to wait and see how that one pans out. But that's all from me. So you guys take it easy.